happy as all get out. Every year I try to put this out when it gets hot. We're going to cover today's video the various heat injuries, what to look out for, that kind of thing. It is getting hot, and this year for our part of North Carolina, we are in for a scorcher. We haven't had a summer like this in a few years. That's right, with temperatures getting into the hundreds, which we haven't had in a few years down here, so we're about due. But basically, you've got three major types of heat injuries, or three types of heat injuries. Heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and the worst, most deadliest of them all is heat stroke. Okay, and they can all culminate leading up to one. And tell you what, Concealed Carry has done a great job this year. They put it all right here in this edition of their monthly periodical. And so we're just going to cover it straight out of there. Might be a little boring, but please pay attention. It could save somebody's life, to include your own. So heat cramps. These can occur after several hours of physical exertion in the heat. Cutting the grass, walking, out in the yard, just doing yard work, whatever the case may be, playing baseball, whatever the case, even swimming. Some of your signs and symptoms: painful muscle spasms, usually in the legs, arms, or abdomen. What do you do for it? What do you treat? How do you treat? One, you get out of the heat, first of all. Hey, that's right, tell them. Okay? Get into a shaded area. Hydrate with water or sports drink. I'm going to tell you, stick more on the water side. Be careful about some of those sports drinks. They have electrolytes, and for years Gatorade's been pushed. But I would tell you to get regular, just good old H2O into your system first. If you can get a quart or two of that in your body, depending on how bad you are, then go with the sports drink. That's just been my experience. The other thing is stretch or massage the affected muscle. To prevent it, acclimate to the environment gradually. In other words, as it's starting to get hot, get out and do things gradually if at all possible. Hydrate with water or sports drinks before exercise. Again, stick with the water. Wear light, loose clothing, and make sure you use sunscreen. Believe it or not, the more you expose your skin to the sun, even though you see in photos of time gone by, the men bare chest, and it's just cooler that way, but it's a good way to get heat cramps, okay? Until you build yourself up to it, you acclimatize, all right? Then we got heat exhaustion. That's the next one in the series here. Okay, it's caused by loss of water and salt through excessive sweating. So, you're really out there humping and pumping and moving and grooving, folks. All right. Signs and symptoms. You got headache, nausea, dizziness, weakness, cool, clammy skin. Say that again. Cool, clammy skin. What do you need to do to prevent or treat? Stop and rest. Hydrate. Get into a cool room or shade. Loosen clothing and apply cool wet towels or pour cool water over the head, behind the neck, on the armpits, growing area, and then you can fan it. Now, when I say cool, tap water, room temperature. Whatever you do, for the love of all that's holy, do not douse somebody that's suffering from heat exhaustion with ice water. I say again, do not douse them with ice water. You can send a person into shock and potentially cardiac arrest by doing that if their body temperature's that's right. If their body temperature's that right. You better listen to little dude, because he's spot on this, okay? But what they don't tell you in here is once you've kind of saturated a person with cool water, fan them. Get that evaporative cooling effect that, sweat naturally does, but now you kind of, the body's telling you something when you get into heat exhaustion. So you want to fan it, kind of help it evaporate and cool yourself off, okay? But the prevention, again, same thing, heat cramps, but also get adequate salt intake during meals to replenish your sodium. There used to be a time in the Army they'd give you salt tablets to tell you to take them, but they found out there's enough sodium, natural sodium, or artificial sodium, in the rations that they give you. And even in the food that nature provides you, there's usually enough sodium. You just need to eat. And I know when you get hot, this is the other thing that leads to heat exhaustion. People get so hot they lose their appetite. You still have to eat because on top of drinking the water, you need to replenish your body's nutrients, one of them being sodium, and you get that through the intake of food. And not to mention keeping the rest of your body's regulatory systems functioning properly, not to mention the energy you need to replace. Finally, we cover the worst one of them all, is heat stroke. This one, again, can be deadly. And I'll tell you a little story about this before I cover this. When I went to jump school in 1994, we were at the end of our second week. And usually in jump school, you tell them about it, right? Mm. Yeah, you're looking at mommy over there in the corner. She's waving, making noises and faces and trying to get them to laugh. That's all right, but, yeah, that's your mommy when she was not much older than he is now. But anyway, I had a staff sergeant that was in front of me on our last 5-mile run before we were going to jump week the following week. And just as we were getting back to the PT area to cool down, he just up and keeled over. Boom. Fortunately, we had a Navy doctor in our class, and he jumped to it. The guy had a heat stroke right there on the spot. He had an internal core temperature of 103.5 there on the field, and they said it got up to 104 when they got him to the hospital. And I ran into him at Fort Bragg a year or two later. He went back and got his jump wings, but now he's a heat casualty, identifiable heat casualty. Well, yeah. And so hot weather gets to him. That's the other thing about these heat injuries. Just like cold weather injuries, once you succumb to one, you are more prone to succumbing to them again. So it's of utmost importance if you've suffered any of these to watch yourself when it gets hot. Yeah, tell them. Now I got Rebel Dog joining me. Really? Is that a fact? You better do what the little dude says, folks. All right, finally, heat stroke, life-threatening condition that occurs when the body's cooling system stops working. Basically, your thermostat's popped its cat. You've blown all the steam out of your radiator, and you're bone dry and hotter than a firecracker. Okay? And its core temperature is rising to a dangerous level. And if ignored, heat stroke can lead to death. Signs and symptoms. You need to pay attention to this one very closely, folks. Red, hot, dry skin. Rapid but weak pulse. Rapid but shallow breathing. Confusion, faintness, hallucinations, unusual agitation, or even coma. Bye, little dude. All right. Treatment. Get the victim out of the sun immediately. Now, if you're out where there's nowhere you can get him to, get a poncho, a tarp. Take your shirt off and make shade for the person, okay? It's vital you do this. Remove any unnecessary clothing. Reduce body temperature by applying water, cool air, wet sheets. They say ice on the neck. Groin and armpits. Seek medical attention immediately. This is a medical emergency. And in prevention, it's the same as for preventing heat cramps and heat exhaustion. All right. Here's the thing, too. Now we've covered that about drinking water when it gets hot like this, folks, is that if you get to the point that you're already thirsty, you're already moving into one of these categories when it gets hot like this. Okay. Hydration. Okay. All of these injuries are preventable. You have to drink adequate water. Water intake is recommended on your level of activity based on the climate of your location. All right. Low to no physical activity, 4 to 6 quarts of water daily. Low to moderate physical activity, 6 to 8 quarts of water daily. Moderate to high physical activity, 8 to 10 quarts of water daily. Now, everyone's limitations are different. We used to do this thing in basic training where we put a dot on our watch. Because I went in the summertime where it was just god-awful hot at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. If you go in the Army, you can go to Fort Jackson for basic. Don't go in the summertime. It sucks. All right? But back to the point at hand, we'd put a dot on our watch. When we saw that dot, we had to drink water. And we didn't have to necessarily drink a whole canteen, but we had to drink water, okay? And the reason was just to ensure we stayed hydrated for all the training we were going through, okay? Again, like for all my years in the Army, usually anywhere I was at, if it got above 95 degrees, all unnecessary outdoor activity stopped. The Army mission never stops, but all unnecessary activities outside stopped. And usually it would stop, and usually that would happen between 11 and 2 in the afternoon, you know, normal time to get that hot. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take soldiers inside somewhere and get them out of the shade, or out of the sun into the shade. If you were already outside, like in the field, we weren't going to pack up and leave from the field and go back to a building that had air conditioning, but we were to go to the tree line and just let our soldiers take their gear off, take their ballistic skid bucket off if it was feasible. In other words, let the whole body just air out, cool off naturally through evaporative process. But all at the same time, monitoring to make sure they were drinking water, eating. I'd have guys that it's too hot to eat, Sword. You need to eat. You're going to have to eat because you got to replenish those minerals that you get through the food that you won't get through the water. And again, their article here recommends, it suggests sports drinks. I'm not against them, but don't make that your sole source of hydrating when it's hot outside. Stick to H2O first, okay? Stick to H2O first. Yeah, there are some things you can, like now they make adult Pedialyte. And I've heard doctors recommend that during peak heat times to drink some of that in conjunction with your water because the electrolytes need to be resupplied to your body, okay? That's where the sports drink and all that, but don't make that your sole way of rehydrating your body. You still need to put just good old-fashioned H2O, all right? And I'm guilty of it. I still hooked on my Diet Cokes, but when I get out here and it's really hot, I break out an old-fashioned Green Army canteen that I keep in my refrigerator full of water, and I'll fill it back up after I finish it, put it back in, go back out to what I'm doing. I'll come back in, I'll polish one off, and keep on going, okay? And the other thing, too, it doesn't tell in this book, and this is going to sound a little gross, but urine. If your urine's clear, you're well hydrated. If it starts to turn yellow, you need to drink water. If it's a dark yellow to almost orange, you need to get inside and you need to hydrate. And now when I say hydrate, don't try to chug 2 quarts of water in 5 minutes. Slowly consume the water and sit there and let your body absorb it, okay? And it needs to be roughly slightly chilled or at room temperature, okay? And the reason I say that, the colder the water, yeah, you want to drink, but at the same token...
Sorry, Papa.
No, he's fine. You want to come back here, Papa? Want to come back here, Papa? Come on.
Be careful, he's doing the head button.
Yeah, I got you.
You got him?
Yeah. So when you consume that water, take your time when you consume it, all right? Don't try to chug it all at one time. And even when you're outside, even if you're not suffering from any of these, but it's hot, it's okay to drizzle some on your head and on your shirt and fan yourself. You say, hi? Hi, all you nice peoples? Hi, all you nice peoples? Yeah. Can you show me a trick? Can you show me a trick Papa taught you? You go, come on. You can do it. Put him on the spot, now I won't do it. But when we were FaceTiming after getting to Washington, he learned how to do that. Oh, gesundheit. But anyway, folks, stay hydrated. If you don't have to be out in the heat, please don't get out in it. Especially if you're in my part of North Carolina. Jerry Parker, you're right up the road from me, brother. Stay inside. You know how it's going to be in the coming weeks. But anybody else that's in the southeast is going to be going through this heat wave. If you ain't got to be in it, don't be in it. Until then, my friends, stay vigilant, stay armed, keep your eyes open, keep your head on a swivel, keep your ear to the ground. God bless, stay safe. Anywho, anyhow, anyway, that's for you, Brother Kyle. Love you. Mean it. JH586. Love you, brother. Mean it. And everybody else, love you, and I mean it. I had to call those two out because they live down in Georgia, and I know they know how hot it is too. So, anyway, God bless. Take care, all of you. It's Old Soldier out. Yeah, Old Soldier, little man out.